Hello and welcome to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. I'm Emma, a mama of 2 girls, an ex-nursery practitioner and the creator of the Non-Perfect Parents Club. The Non-Perfect Parents Club is all about support, honesty, truths, acknowledging that none of us can be perfect parents because it's impossible, and basically just speaking the unspoken. The only rule here is no judgment allowed. I love hearing people's stories. I love finding out about other parents, their family dynamics, their values and how they tick. So that is what this podcast is going to be. Some great honest conversations about parenting, hopefully delving into some nitty-gritty thoughts and feelings that will make us all laugh, cry and sigh a big sigh of relief. Hello and welcome back to the Non-Perfect Parents Club podcast. Today I'm joined by Naomi. Hi Naomi and welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me. So, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your family dynamic and any heritage.
Yeah, hi, thanks for having me on. I'm Naomi. I'm a mum of 2 girls now, a 3-year-old and a 3-month-old. The 3-month-old is with me here, so hopefully she'll stay asleep. We'll see how she does. Yeah, I'm a psychologist and I work with children and young people and families and schools, but don't let that fool you that I know anything at all about parenting, because it turns out the reality is just so different to anything you can learn about child development or theories or good practice. It goes out the window in the reality of parenting. So yeah, seeing it from the other side it's been very interesting.
It's funny, isn't it, because so when I had my eldest, I was a nursery practitioner as a manager in a nursery, and I think everyone just presumes that you're just going to know what you're doing, which some stuff you do to some extent, don't you? But then you're thrown in, you're like, wow, this is so different.
It really is. I don't think anything can quite prepare you for how relentless it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's me. I come from a family of 4, my mum and dad and me and my brother. We moved around quite a bit as we were growing up, but most of my childhood was spent in Cumbria, near Penrith, which was lovely. So big garden, beautiful view of the fells. We had chickens.
Wow. Oh, did you?
So, yeah, happy memories of growing up there.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Okay. The main rule of the Non-Perfect Parents Club is no judgment allowed. Have you ever felt judged in your parenting, and can you tell us about it?
Yes, mostly by myself, I think. When
good answer.
I heard that you asked this question, I thought, oh yeah, most of it comes from myself.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why. It's bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I notice a lot of it. And when I've felt judgment from other people, I think I've realised a lot of that depends on how I'm doing on that day and how I perceive it.
Yeah.
And whether I've had enough sleep.
Yes,
kind of all affects how I take things. So when I do feel judgment, I try really hard to think, okay, I can choose how I respond, and perhaps it wasn't meant like that, and I find that really helpful, because
that's really interesting you said that, because when I was looking through my notes before, like my questions, and obviously I edit the intro and stuff, and I've got like a list of a next set of questions for when I want to kind of progress this season. And that question is, do you judge yourself? Because that's something that I've really thought about, and I think we are our harshest critics, aren't we? And we do really, really judge ourselves in parenting. So I think can't remember. I don't know if you're the first person to say that as well. I can't remember. But yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know where it comes from. Even just the comparison game, and I think because we see everything of ourselves and we only see certain bits of other people's lives, it's so easy to think, oh, they've got it together, and I really haven't, but I don't know what anyone else is like behind the scenes.
And that's it, isn't it? And it is so easy to look at snapshots of other people's lives and think, oh, and it gets you, but like you say, it's you don't know what they're doing. And I always find perception, I mean, you probably know a lot more about this than me, but I always find perception is such an interesting thing, the way you perceive others and even the way you perceive yourself, because it's just like, how you perceive one person and then they perceive themselves completely different. It always really intrigues me what what people think. And I always kind of wonder, I wonder what people think of me, you know, like when they just see me like in passing, or like when I'm out with the girls and stuff, I always think, I wonder what people think of me, and like if how they see me in comparison to how I feel I am.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else to add on that question?
No, I think that's everything on that. Really,
Okay.
I'm sure there was more I was going to say, but
I
it's
always
all
do
gone
that.
out of my head.
Okay, so how do you feel about parenting? Good, bad? Has it changed you, and do you have any regrets?
I have no regrets, but parenting has been a real unravelling for me.
Yeah. Okay.
I've kind of lost myself and found myself at the same time. Yeah, it's just been a real roller coaster. I think, especially my first daughter was born just before lockdown.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like as in 2 weeks before lockdown.
Oh really?
So by the time
gosh.
we'd come out of hospital and come out of that kind of newborn fog, the world had completely changed, and it was just bonkers.
Yeah.
So that it was very, very strange to become parents in isolation, really.
Yeah.
It had advantages as well, because my husband was home on furlough for 3 months, which was great. And actually I couldn't do the comparison game.
Yes, yeah.
Which I think actually served me really well. I found myself thinking, right, I just have to work this out for myself.
Yeah.
And learn to trust my gut, trust my instincts, and just become exactly who I want to be as a parent, in a way that I don't know whether I would have done if I'd have been meeting a lot of other parents. I don't know. But it was quite nice from that point of view to not have to be comparing what my daughter was doing compared to other people's children at the same age and all of that. We didn't have any of that. We just we were completely on our own journey, and in some ways that was awful, but in some ways that was really helpful. I think I found my feet probably quicker. Found myself and had to be that parent from the start. It was a very, very strange experience. No one should have to parent in a vacuum.
And especially like your first time parenting as well, because when you first become a parent, that's like such a huge change, isn't it? Like, I know there's 5 years between my two, so the second time round we kind of forgotten stuff, so it was like, I can't remember what to do, but we'd already got one and we were already doing stuff, so it was just like, you know, you just kind of carry on that routine. But when it's your first, it's such a huge change. So to do that, and 2 weeks after lockdown, like 2 weeks before, sorry, was it 2 weeks after?
She was 2 weeks before
2
lockdown.
weeks before, so wow, that's like, so how did you find that in terms of like, do you have much family locally, or like did that affect that kind of them relationships with baby?
It was really strange to not have people able to come and visit, and for my daughter to be raised in this kind of vacuum, really not being able to see people, not being able to be held by other people. Kind of, we saw people through the window, and it was just so strange. You know, you've got this gorgeous little baby and you want to share them with everybody.
That's it, isn't it?
And it was very strange. Really strange time.
And has it affected your daughter at all? Like, have you noticed anything?
I have no idea. I really don't know. There's things that I think, I wonder if that's an effect of lockdown, but also is that just personality? You know, we don't know. I really don't know. That's a good question. I think the only thing is that all the children her age have gone through.
They're all in the same boat, aren't they?
What a strange experience for all of them.
And just think, like, I always said this when we were in lockdown, like I said to my girls, like, just think when you're, especially my youngest, when you're at like high school and doing history, you'll probably learn about this. Like, it just blows, it still blows my mind that even happened anyway. Like, looking back, it just feels so surreal, doesn't it? But then to think, like, our children have experienced that, and like, so to be born in, well, just in lockdown, I guess, it's like, wow.
Really strange. And I'm finding it now, like, we're taking out the clothes that we saved for my daughter. Like, we didn't have any new clothes from this age, and the age that my daughter is now.
Of course.
It was all hand-me-downs from my cousins and things, so a lot of boys' clothes and things. So it's nice now to be thinking, we can get some
we can go and
things. And my daughter keeps commenting on things, and I never know how much to let her know how different it was. Like she says, "Oh, you used to do this with you know, when I was a baby, and Granny and Grandad used to come round when I was a baby," and she's putting it all in context. But actually, they couldn't. And it's really difficult to try and explain that in a way that she understands. But how strange! It was illegal for her grandparents to give her a cuddle. Like, you just can't make sense of it now.
You can't at all. You just can't. Wow.
Parenting is just
Yeah, it is.
It's just
it's intense, isn't it?
It's so intense. It is so intense, and it's relentless. Yes, and it's wonderful, and it's awful. Yeah, and sometimes at the same time, within a minute, it can be the most amazing thing and the most awful thing. Yeah, and I think it just takes us so much to our limits so often, and we just it's a lot, isn't it?
How have you found going from 1 to 2 and the difference in that? So obviously, lockdown baby too.
I've loved it, I'll be honest. It's been a lot easier. 2 children out of lockdown is a lot easier than 1 in lockdown. I think I'm in a better place, my mental health is in a better place, kind of just being able to get out and about and see people makes such a huge difference. And my eldest is a wonderful big sister, so that's nice. That's it has its moments with having the 2, but I love it. I think my brother said, with 2 you'll be you'll have less sleep but more fun.
That's a really nice way to look at it, isn't it? Because that is so true as well. That's lovely. Okay, is there anything in your life that has shaped how you parent that you're happy to talk about? Any situations or circumstances that have affected this?
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, I think. Okay. There's 3 key things, really, I think, that have really affected how I parent. One is I actually have a disability, an invisible disability. Okay. I was very poorly a few years ago. It still affects me every day. But there was a long time when having children just didn't seem like an option. And that broke my heart. It really broke my heart. And then when we then came to the point of being able to try, I was well enough. We then had miscarriages. And I think those experiences, I'm not saying that I love every minute, but I've got a sense of gratitude that runs really deep. I can remember just how awful those years were of wanting so desperately to be a mum and not life being in the way of that, and just nothing that's hard now is as hard as that was. So I remind myself of that when I'm up again in the middle of the night for the 40th time.
You've got to have things like that, haven't you? That like, because in the deepest, darkest depths of parenting, when it is so hard, there is always something that kind of pulls you back up and reminds you, like, no, it's amazing to be in this position, even if you don't enjoy parenting, because some people don't, do they? I mean, it's not for everyone, but once you're in it, there's no going back, is there? But I think even when you don't enjoy parenting, like, there's always something that, and as your children grow, there's always, first, even as they get past the little stages, I think you celebrate the first when they're small, but there's not much talked about that as they get older. There's still first, and it just keeps on rolling, and there's just more and more that to come, I guess.
Yeah, my daughter, she's just started singing and dancing and things, which just makes my heart so full. But even, I think, in the worst times, I know that I would have given anything a few years ago to be in this position. I would have given anything to have my baby poo on me. Or to be woken again in the middle of the night. It was literally my biggest and most wildest dream to be in this position, and that pulls me through, I think, in a lot of ways. I'm not saying it makes it easier. No. But it does. That's kind of the thread that pulls me through, I think, is just knowing how difficult those years were, and how this was my dream, and I'm living it, and that's something that I hold on to every day.
So you said there was 3 things.
I'm also an older mum. So I was 38 with my first, and I'm 40 with...
Really?
Yeah.
You can't tell.
Thanks. But I think that's changed the way I parent in a lot of ways. I know I would have had a lot more energy, 10, 15 years ago. But I feel much surer of myself at this stage in life. I think that makes quite a big difference to how I do parent. I just feel more settled in myself. I know there's things that I would have struggled with a lot more. If I'd have had children a lot earlier in life, so that gives me a different perspective, I guess. Also makes me so tired and achy.
It's funny, isn't it? Because there is such a thing, I guess, around the age that you have children, like young mum, older mum, like, and I mean, does it really matter? Like, there's pros and cons, I guess, to put it that way, to any age that you have children, because it just depends where you're at in life, doesn't it? Like, and I mean, obviously your body changes and stuff like that. Like my mum was 36 when she had my sister. She'll probably kill me for saying that. And I always remember her saying, so there's 8 years between me and my sister, but I always remember my mum saying, like, she found it harder with my sister in terms of, like, she was tired and she didn't have the energy for, like, her friends round and stuff like that in comparison to when she had me. And she wasn't obviously really young when she had me. So I guess there are things to it, but there's such a thing around it, isn't there? Have you found anything? Because I know I've got a few friends, and like they've had, you know, comments from doctors and like on the doctor's notes.
Geriatric mother and all that.
And it's just like, well, you know, that's, people are still having, some people start having babies at like 40 plus now. It's not a thing, but then it's like, as well, I'm going off on it. I've had no one else like discuss this before, so this is really interesting. But it's that thing as well, I guess, of, for women, your biological clock is ticking, I guess, isn't it? And do you get what I'm getting at? Like, trying to I do this, I like start on a thing and then I go off on a tangent, and but yeah, like there's, so it doesn't really matter your age, but there is, I guess, things to think about, isn't there? And
and there's definitely pluses and minuses, I guess, for every stage, and we're all just on our own.
And
we become parents when we become parents.
But yeah, and I think you do, as you get older, you do become more self-assured, don't you, and more confident in yourself, and you know, that's something, I guess, that's really beneficial to parenting, especially with regards to stuff like judgment and you know, making decisions and things like that. Have you found that easy, you know, like in terms of making decisions and stuff like that, and I guess being influenced by other people, has that affected?
That's interesting, actually. I feel like I've surprised myself with how well I've kind of just gone with, no, this is how I feel like I should do it, and this is how we're going to do it, because this is right for us, you know. I think it's Brené Brown says, you know, there's no way to be a perfect parent, but there's a million ways to be a good parent, and this is my way of being a good parent, and I'm going to do it my way, because I know this is what's right for me and my girls, and that assurance, I guess, comes maybe from age, maybe from other experiences, I don't know. One thing I do notice is I often feel tempted to like go onto, you know, online forums and things and ask questions that I don't know what to do, and then I always make myself stop and think, if someone else had asked that question, how would I answer it? And usually that actually gets me to think, oh, okay, I think that's what I'm going to do. And just find that confidence within myself. It takes a lot of work.
Yes.
Because it doesn't always come naturally, but that's definitely come. Oh, hey.
Oh. And how have you found, so do you have many friends that have children or similar age children, or how have you found that aspect of kind of being an older mum? Has that affected it at all?
I have a very good friend who became a mum just 8 months before me, so that was lovely. Of course, with lockdown we didn't get to do the maternity leave together and everything that we dreamed that we might, but Yeah, like a lot of my friends similar age have teenagers and things, so that's quite different. They're going through very different stages of parenting. It was, I think this time around it hasn't bothered me because I've been able to get out and meet people, whereas the first time around it's like, how do you meet people when you have to stay home? And so that felt quite isolating, I think. But this time around, to be able to go out and meet people at groups and things, no one knows how old you are. You just all on the same journey. Yeah,
that's it, isn't it? And it doesn't matter, does it?
No, it really doesn't.
I think again, there's always this thing of, I think maybe because of through school, you're always with your same age group and you have your friends, and then as you grow, it's like, you don't have to have friends that are the same age as you. You kind of attract, I guess, from your life situations and things like that, and it doesn't have to be how you kind of, I guess, conditioned going through school to think, does it?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's nice because I've got a really established group of friends who I've had for years and been through the best and the worst of everything, and now meeting new people. It's just lovely, actually, to feel like, there's a whole new network of people, which is really nice.
Oh.
Yeah. And there's nothing quite like people who are going through the exact same stage as you.
Isn't it?
Like,
yeah.
How was your night? Awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
And that's it. Like you can have like your established group of friends, but sometimes they aren't necessarily in that same boat as what you are, and sometimes you just need that, don't you? Just need someone to not say, oh well, I went through that and do this, or you just need someone to say, yeah, I know,
I get it.
Like, that was me too last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What is your biggest value when it comes to parenting?
Connection, for sure. Connection, I think, is at the heart of everything.
Yeah, I was interested to hear your answer in that.
Yeah, and I guess that comes from my psychologist head on my parent head. When I feel connected and when my children feel connected, you can feel the difference.
Yeah.
And that just makes all the difference in the world, I think. And not that we have it all the time, good enough is the phrase that I've used for years and used with myself multiple times a day, that we only have to be good enough, that connection. I think the research says if you're attuned and connected about a third of the time, that's enough.
Oh, really?
A third of the time, kind of recognising that maybe you're out of alignment together and you repair it, and a third of the time it can be absolutely rubbish. Because all it needs is that a third of the time to be good enough, and I hold on to that so much because I think there's so much pressure on from ourselves and from elsewhere. We're all doing the best that we can, right? And we only have to be good enough, and that is enough for our kids. And if we've got that connection, and that's going to be different for every child. I mean, it's magical, isn't it, when you get that? It might just be a moment in the day. But when you get it, it's magical, and I think that has a lot of knock-on effects when you get that connection. Enough of the time for things to go well.
It's funny, isn't it? That was my value, was
connection.
Really?
Was it?
Because I always try and like remind myself and think, as long as we've got that connection, doesn't matter what happens. They know I'm there, and we, wherever, because I always kind of parent the long game, wherever you send them off into the world, and even though I tell them they're not allowed to leave home, wherever they go, I just think if we've got that connection, they'll always know they can come back, and it's just that. And then we had something happened recently, and with my eldest, and she came straight to me, and I was like, in the moment that it happened, it was like mad rush. I was like going out the door like, oh my god. But because afterwards, when we'd kind of sorted everything out and I sat down and I thought about it, and I was like, wow, like she didn't even bat an eyelid. Like, she literally came straight to me, and I thought, that's where I know that I'm getting something right. Like, even on the days where like I've shouted or I've been grumpy and we've, stuff's happened, I know that I'm getting something right, because she just came straight to me. So that connection is like, it's just amazing, isn't it, when you've got it?
It is. And we're always going to have days like that, aren't we? Because we're just human.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've got enough just to pull ourselves through.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't know that about the third of the time, so that's, I'm going to hold on to that, thank you. Yeah, that's going to be my little in-head mantra now, like 30%.
Good enough.
Third of
Good
the
enough.
time, yeah. What has been your biggest challenge so far?
I had a traumatic birth with my first.
Oh, really?
And wow. That was a challenge and a half. Yeah, it was awful.
So with your first, you've
had it was lockdown.
Your traumatic birth. I mean, you had a tough time getting there.
Yeah.
Traumatic birth, and then lockdown. Like, wow.
It was awful. It was really awful. So I had undiagnosed PTSD, and because of lockdown, not seeing any professionals, people had said parenting's hard. So we had nothing to compare it to. You know, okay, this is really, really hard.
Yeah. Wow.
But it turns out, PTSD. Did you know 1 in 3 women have a traumatic birth? That's awful. Yeah. Really awful, and it's setting people up what should be the best beginning. Yeah. That makes everything so complicated, and just I cannot believe, you know, I work with trauma in my workspace, but nothing prepared me really for how it was in reality, and I didn't even recognise it in myself because I was so. It was all consuming. Yeah. It was just all consuming. Yeah. And the anxiety was unreal.
Yeah, I bet.
Around whether my daughter was okay. Yeah. And it was just horrendous. So by far and away that's been the biggest challenge. And it's had so many knock-on effects in so many areas. And I just can't believe how common it is. And it just fills me with so much compassion, I think, when every new parent, I'm thinking, did you have an experience like that? Did you? You know, we're going through all these emotions, but you never know what people have been through, and
especially if it's awful. 1 in 3, like you think, even so, you've been coming to my meets recently, haven't you? Like you think in that room, how many people? Yeah. And I guess it's something that once you're past the birth bit, and I guess into, they call it the 4th trimester, I guess, don't they? And on, like, for you that could still be a huge deal, but no one else would even think about that, because it's done, it's been and gone, hasn't it? But and that's something that I've not really thought about, to be honest, and that's a huge I mean, that's the beginning, isn't it? Like, I know obviously it's not the very beginning, because the pregnancy is like a whole thing, but that is the moment, you know, so for that and that can affect, so like you say, that can affect so much, can't it, with your baby and the start of your parenting experience,
and how you view yourself. Like for me, I really struggled to come to terms with the fact that I was a mum, and that she was really here, and that everything was okay, but there was just so many challenges connected with that, and how I perceived myself, and how I worried about my daughter. You know, it was huge. I've had a lot of therapy since then. To get to where I am now, really, it was a real unravelling.
So did any of kind of your experiences with you first affect your decision in having another? Did you? I mean, if you decided, that's me just presuming you decided to have another. It doesn't always work like that, does it? But did any of that make you really think about, you know, whether that was something?
For a long time, neither of us could really consider going there again. Really, and it was again a lot of therapy and a lot of work within myself, because I'd always dreamed of a big family. And I know with my age, probably won't be the 4 or 5 kids that I'd imagined, but you know, I really wanted that experience again. Hopefully better this time. And to have the experience of becoming parents without lockdown as well, and just to build that family that we'd always dreamed of. It took so much courage, but we also knew it was something we wanted to fight for. So with a lot of work and a lot of therapy and a lot of courage and a lot of luck, we're where we are today, and it's incredible. And I really fought this time around for the birth that I wanted and that I knew was right
yeah.
for me and my baby. Ended up having a home birth.
Oh, did you? Oh, that's
which
amazing.
was really what I wanted, and that was amazing. It was really empowering. I mean, labour's labour, whenever it happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really empowering to feel like I'd made it what I needed it to be, and I stuck exactly to what I knew was right for me, no matter what.
Right.
And yeah, that was a really empowering experience.
Yeah.
And the difference with how that set me up to be a mum this time around is just the opposite of how I felt the last time around. And that's what makes me sad and angry, I guess. Yeah. That so many women are being robbed of that.
Yeah.
And dads too, you know. It doesn't just affect
no.
the mum, and just can you imagine how different parenting would be if we all started off with that wonderful, empowering, being able to trust ourselves and our bodies and our instincts, and that would set ourselves up. Yeah,
and that's
so well.
To me, obviously, it's just my personal opinion, but to me, that's how it should be.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
That should be how it is, and yeah, it is just like mind blowing that, you know, what women have to go through. So with your eldest, were you nervous about the birth, like obviously beforehand, before you knew what was coming? Were you?
Do you know, I felt amazing.
Did you?
In that pregnancy, I really felt amazing. My health was better than it's been in a lot of years with the hormones. Yeah, I was looking forward to the birth. I'd really I'd prepared as much as I could, and I was feeling pretty ready for anything, really. Just, you know, I wasn't really under any illusions that it would be easy or whatever, but I was looking forward to the challenge, I think, and just meeting my daughter and knowing that it was something to go through, a bit of a rite of passage, I think. It's something that I'd wanted for so long, and it was such a privilege to be pregnant and to be pregnant to full term, and I was looking forward to it in a weird way. I walked into the hospital while I was in labour. It's hard to describe how strong I felt at that point. And just to have all of that, there was 5 different things that went horribly wrong.
Right, okay.
Through no fault of my own, and it robbed me of all of that sense of feeling strong and in control and all of that, and I just felt so broken after that, and it took a lot of rebuilding, I think.
And then did that affect you coming up to the birth of your second?
It did, I was really anxious. It was a very different pregnancy. Also, I felt awful this pregnancy.
Oh, did you?
I was sick all the way through, and it was just one of those that was just really difficult. And looking after her.
Yeah, well, that's
at the
it,
same
isn't
time,
it?
we watched a lot of CBeebies. But yeah, it definitely affected things. But I've also, I think because I've taken it head on and gone for the therapy, it really worked hard. I feel like I've come out the other side much stronger, and I've learned so much about myself, and unlearned things that weren't helpful, and learned things that are helpful, and it's just been such a journey. So obviously I wish it hadn't happened, but I've managed to bring good out of it in a way, but no one should have to go through that sort of experience.
No, they shouldn't. And I mean, there's lots we could kind of delve into. My brain's already going, like, I'm thinking that another podcast episode, there's another guest I had on, Molly, and she's very much an advocate for like home birth and trusting your body and doing what feels right and stuff. I feel like we'd have a great conversation there. But it shouldn't be. And do you feel like sometimes, just, I mean, in your experience, do you feel like mums are listened to enough? No.
I think that's the biggest issue. You're on a conveyor belt, and I don't think that's the fault of the individual practitioners. The system is just so stretched, and you know, like being told over and over again, you've got to have an induction, you know, there's a real risk, and then oh, but you can't have it today because it's coming up to the weekend. Also, is it a risk or is it not? You know, were we in danger or were we not? Like, a lot of it was to do with staffing and all of that. People get told all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And no, I don't think women are listened to enough. I think the reading that I've done since about birth trauma and things, it really feels like there's a real violation of human rights going on.
Yeah.
Just, women not being listened to, put through awful pain without needing to be, you know, kind of put through fear, put at risk, babies put at risk by following policies. And
well, I mean, even in the news at the minute, that's horrific. I don't know if you've read what's...
I'm avoiding the news at the minute, to be honest.
I won't go into that then,
Gives me a lot of anxiety.
A very traumatic situation with a baby, with a forceps delivery.
Oh, God.
And it's like, I mean, I don't know the statistics and stuff. I'm useless. I read stuff, but I'm useless at retaining information. But I know that there's an even bigger risk for like women of colour giving birth, and that just blows my mind. Like, why that? And
in this day and age, how is that?
And the fact that they're not listened to. But I know that, I mean, with my eldest, my birth was just a normal birth, but I know that we went up to the hospital, so we'd done the your birth bump birth and beyond, whatever classes they were, and they told us, when your contractions are 10 minutes apart, you ring the hospital. Well, my contractions started 10 minutes apart, so we kind of waited all night, and then they got to the morning, they got to 3 minutes apart, and we're thinking, do we ring? Like, so we rung. They were like, oh, well, stay at home if you can, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it got to mid-afternoon, and it got to the point where they were like getting too strong by this point for me to manage at home. So we rung. We were saying the inn was full because Lancaster was full, so we ended up going to Kendal. But when we got up there, the midwife that was on was a little bit like, as if we shouldn't be there because I wasn't kind of ready to give birth, and they'd offered us food because it was tea time, and like, well, if you were in labour you wouldn't be hungry, but anyway, because we'd gone up to Kendal, we stuck out. We said, we're not going home now.
No.
And it was a couple of hours. They'd said and I would ask for some pain relief because I was really uncomfortable. I hadn't had anything up to this point, and they'd said have a bath. So I was in this bath off the room. We hadn't got the bags out of the car because they'd told us not to. We'd literally pulled up in delivery. It was really relaxed up there, which was great. But they'd said, just leave your car there, leave your bags in, you won't need them yet.
Right.
So my husband had gone to get a towel and a dressing gown out of the car, and then like that, I was in like full-blown labour. I was on my own in this room, like, oh my God. So anyway, he came back in, went into the room, and they could hear me shouting up on the thing. So they came in, and they were like, oh no, you won't be ready to give birth yet. It's only been a couple of hours.
Yeah, how could you know your own body?
Yeah, and then they were like, and I was like, my body's pushing, and they were like, no, don't push, and and it was, I will never ever forget this because it was the pain. It wasn't so much pain, but my body was just naturally pushing, and I was trying to stop it because they told me I wasn't ready to push and not to push. And it was the most awful feeling of, how do you can't stop that.
Your body, no.
And then they checked me, and lo and behold, I was 10 centimetres dilated. Yeah, right, okay, we're good to go.
Oh, you actually did know what was going on in your own body.
Yeah, see, look at that. That's it. And that's just what made me think, like, if they'd have listened to me at that point, I wouldn't have. I mean, and that was, for me, that was only a minor, situation in comparison to what lots of women go through. But even something as small as that, so I can't even imagine for like you what you went through.
But then even like what you're describing there, how that doesn't set you up to trust your instincts as a mum.
No, and
like, it's all it's not setting us up in the best way, is it? If they'd have trusted you, that teaches you to trust yourself, and that's what you need most, I think, as a mum especially, is to be able to trust your own instincts.
And that's one thing that I always say to all the mums that I speak to. I always say, like, friends come to me for advice or whatever, and I'll say, what's your instinct telling you? What's your gut feeling? And then you know, always ask, you know, for like extra help if you're not sure. But I always, you know, say,
it's powerful. It's your own instinct, and especially with parenting, I think.
Yeah, and there's been so many times for us where my instinct has been right, and just as an example, medical professionals have tried to tell me that it's not just simple things like my eldest with eczema that was really bad and uncomfortable, and we managed to get rid of that through diet, and I was told no, it's not diet, and you know, just there's all sorts of things that happened that, and I guess over time it's like, oh no, I do need to listen to my instinct, but like you say,
because all of that just erodes your confidence, doesn't it? And leaves you much more vulnerable then to feeling the judgment and the comparison and everything else, and the systems just aren't set up, I think, for us becoming parents in the way that's going to be best for us and our babies, who then become children and young people and adults, you know. The knock-on effects are huge, and the fact that that's not going right for so many families, that's not right.
No, it's awful, isn't it?
Oh, we got deep there.
We did, yeah. I always go off on it. Okay, so I think the last question. What do you wish you could change about parenting in general, as in for everyone?
I've got so many
things.
I was
just going to say, I mean, just one thing. There's probably like loads of things.
I know. Yeah. I mean, there's so much around like the state systems and everything, and the maternity systems that could be different. If I could eradicate anxiety, I would eradicate anxiety, because can you imagine parenting without the anxiety?
Oh my goodness. The world would just be different, wouldn't it? Be like a whole euphoric state of mumness everywhere.
But I think, especially from the conversation that we've had today, I think the one thing I would settle on would be for us all to know we only have to be good enough, and we are enough for our children. And to trust our instincts. I think. But good enough.
Good enough, and trust your instincts. I massively agree with that. Okay. If you've enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to follow, review and share with other parents you know. You can now listen on Apple, Spotify and Amazon and Google Podcasts. If you would like to be a guest on the podcast, please get in touch via any of my social media channels, website or email. Thank you, Naomi, for joining me on today's podcast. It's been great to have you. And thank you to everyone for listening.